Lisa, this time of Christmas, people are doing a lot of shopping and they're going to various outlets to spend their money. And as consumers, we need to understand what our rights as consumers are. So, to joining me this morning, it's the acting senior consumer advocate with the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and I'm speaking about the Consumer Affairs Division. It's Camille McIntyre. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Thank
Thanks
you
for having me.
and thank you for joining us this morning. So jumping right to it, in this season, as I was alluding to, a lot of people are doing shopping, and there are a lot of issues that may arise with consumers in this time, and well, any time of the year, really. So let's speak about some of the rights and responsibilities of a consumer.
Sure. Good morning once again, Trinidad and Tobago. The Consumer Affairs Division is the protection and advocacy arm of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and we seek to protect consumers' rights. One such right I would like to touch on is the right to redress. We at the ministry is doing this by visiting suppliers. First, we want to ensure that the consumers are not taken advantage of. And what we did, our advocates during this month visited suppliers throughout Trinidad and Tobago to ensure that they are in compliance with the Adverse Trade Practices Order 2000. This order deems that any signage on display in the store or on your receipt does not bear the terms "no exchange, no refund." You see, these infringes on the rights of the consumer to get redress, because a consumer is entitled to redress once the item is defective or not fit for purpose.
Are there any
The consumer could get redress. And when we speak of redress, we speak in terms of either getting a refund or getting your item exchanged, getting it repaired, or even a credit note.
Are there any exceptions to this? For instance, if the damage to the item is at the fault of the consumer or perceived as the fault of the consumer?
Well, no, if it's the consumer's fault, the supplier is not under obligation to give redress. However, depending on the product, some suppliers, due to goodwill and want to foster good customer relations, they may do so, but they are not under obligation to do so.
All right. And there are certain disclaimers that you see in certain shops. For instance, no credit cards to be used and things like that, and other issues that come up that we see a lot during this time, including when we see no refund and no exchange on sale items, for instance. Is there any legality behind these things?
The no refund and no exchange on sale items, well, that is covered under the Adverse Trade Practices Order, right? If a supplier does not want you to use credit card, they probably don't have the facility for what reason, it will be the store policy, and thus the consumer would probably have to abide by that.
All right. And well, you just mentioned the Adverse Trade Practice Order. Could you give us a little more detail on what this is?
Okay. So as I said before, when stores, you see, when stores have this display or this sign saying no exchange or no refund, in the consumer mind, if they go away with an item and they reach home and they realize, well, it is not working, in their mind, there's a mindset that they have no redress, there is no hope. So that is why it's so important for them not to put up these signs, because it gives you the wrong impression. And it's a very important piece of legislation because the penalties are heavy, right? If a store gets summary conviction, you could be fined $5,000 and to an imprisonment for 4 months. And if you get fined on conviction on indictment,
right.
There's a fine of $10,000 and imprisonment for 2 years, because you're infringing on the consumer rights. And it's something that we as consumers in Trinidad tend to take for granted, right? And what we at the ministry we want more assertive and well-informed consumers. So we are doing these things to protect their rights. Another thing that we did, another right the consumer has, is the right to choose, right? In the marketplace, there's a a lot of brands and a wide variety of products in the market. But what we at the ministry did I know it's Christmas season. Christmas is in full swing. So we at the division still committed to helping consumers make informed and wise decisions while doing their shopping. So what we have done is publish a special Christmas edition 2020 of Supermarket Prices. This is published in the local newspapers, and you can find it on our website. This is a list. This list is a pricing list of select items that are frequently purchased during the Yuletide season. So you will find items with turkey, picnic ham, sorrel, ginger beer. You were talking about which one is your favorite.
Right.
So a whole host of items that people tend to buy during the season. You will find on the website, and you can compare prices. I think those prices were gathered between the period November the 25th to December 16th. So the up-to-date prices.
And let's speak now about hire purchase agreements. Now, when consumers buy items on terms, you know, what are some of the rights that the consumer has that they should know about that is probably not very well known?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, when you're in a hire purchase, we advise consumers to read your contract carefully, right? Understand the terms and conditions.
Are you still with us? Camille, can you hear me? All right, it seems Camille is having a little trouble with the connection there. Yeah, we may. Can you unmute your mic? It probably muted accidentally.
Yeah, sorry
There
about
we
that.
go. That's okay.
Right. Yeah. So under the hire purchase means that you are paying probably about twice the amount of your cash price. So it's a higher price that you are paying. But the greatest advantage of your hire purchase is that you are able to use the item at once. Okay. Now the consumer needs to remember that the item is not theirs until they make that final payment. So they have to keep the item in good condition. If anything goes wrong with the item, I would like to advise consumer to continue paying your contract, continue paying your cash, continue paying for the loan, okay? And give the supplier an opportunity and time to give you redress. Some people tend to stop paying and then they end up in arrears and a lot of interest. So that is why it's important for the consumer to read their contract. And sometimes too, just a note, you may purchase an item using one address and due to circumstances, the consumer has moved residence. And if that is the case, we advise consumer to notify the supplier that you have changed address, because remember the item is not yours. And if you fail to do so, they can void your warranty.
Right.
So that is some tips on hire purchase as well.
All right, yeah, so read the contract, ensure you know what you're getting yourself into and what you're signing up for. And well, with that, that's all we have time for this morning. But I want to thank you so much, Camille McIntyre, for joining us and giving us this very pertinent information in this time here in this season where people, you know, consumers need a lot of guidance as to what their rights are and so much more. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right, have a great day. That was Camille McIntyre, Senior Consumer Advocate, acting actually with the Ministry of Trade and Industry for the Consumer Affairs Division.